Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. So, if you've been following the tale of the jailbird lovebirds that flew the coop down in Alabama, what's their name? Both their names are white, right? Vicky and Casey. That's right. I don't usually follow, what's going on in the news, but this kind of drew my interest because there's going to be some lessons here. Interesting case. I spent time in fugitive apprehension before I left law enforcement, so I have some experience in this. And then I did work in what we called personal recovery later on, which was finding people. This case is interesting. We're going to see a lot of lessons come out of this. The first thing that I want to say is that nothing that you've heard so far means much of anything. I mean, some of it does. And the funny thing is, these things happen every now and then, We had one happen up here in the Kansas Penitentiary in Lansing some years back. Some woman who was up there volunteering, teaching the inmates how to train dogs or something. I forget. It had something to do with that, up there helping the inmates, and all of a sudden smuggled one of them out of prison in a dog crate after she had established herself, as a trustworthy vendor to the prison, made friends with everybody, and everybody trusted her, and so she came and went, as she pleased. Well, fell in love with a guy, fell in love with an inmate, and scooted her boots along with him. Of course, they caught them. They'll catch these too. I won't say it happens all the time, but I wouldn't say that it's rare. Anybody who's ever, and I never worked corrections because my sheriff's department didn't handle the county jails. In a Class A county in Missouri, the sheriff's department is all criminal. It doesn't handle the jail side. So I'm no expert in that. Maybe Steve out there at Corsair Trainers will chime in here. But I of course I sent a lot that way, and transported a lot of prisoners, brought a lot of people back from across the country who got caught on our warrants and stuff like that, and then went out and found people myself. And it's not unheard of. These guys are master manipulators because that's what they've given time, and they're sneaky. They're not particularly, the prisons are not full of geniuses, but they are full of conniving, sneaky, manipulative bastards, and some better folks, and some worse. But this isn't unheard of. So this woman, and I'm not going to speak to what exactly was going on in her life. I hear that she had some unfortunate history, personal history that can send a person off. And I'm sure this guy had made her feel like, well, he was a victim, and she ended up feeling sorry for him, and he made her feel like somebody was giving her attention, and blah blah blah. Same old stuff, same stuff. Anyway, the interesting thing was none of that's particularly interesting. It happens, I imagine that obviously she planned this, but people are never as smart as they think they are. And I've heard people talk about, well, the car that was found up there in Tennessee means this, or it means that, or it means this, or it means that. The truth of the matter is, it doesn't mean anything right now because we don't know. I've even read a lot of the comments. I followed some of the comments on some of the stories on YouTube, when they have the news, and all sorts of comments about this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. You don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. The guys investigating the case may have an idea of what happened now. They may not. what you do in an investigation is you don't think, well, I bet this happened. You follow the evidence. You track down the evidence, and you go where the evidence leads you. You know, it's not for the most like Sherlock Holmes, to where you get a flash of brilliance and decide, oh, I think I know what happened. Well, you know, sometimes you're going to get a sense because, like I said, these people aren't that brilliant for the most part, and certain patterns, you know, emerge. Anyway, I don't think that's the important thing here. It's going to be interesting to see. I'd be interested to know whether she's still alive. You know, I don't know. I'm not going to make it. I don't know if I have my doubts, or I would simply not be surprised if she's not. Okay, whether the car was found in Tennessee, that doesn't mean anything to me, because there's all sorts of ways that car could have ended up in Tennessee. May mean something, may not. What we're going to get out of this, though, what's interesting to me, there are going to be a lot of lessons here, preparedness lessons, survival lessons, and all sorts of lessons. It depends on how hinky this thing gets, how complicated it gets, how they will be found. I mean, there's no question to that. They will be caught. How they're caught is another question. You know, very rarely are these people caught because, you know, some cop or agent tracks them down and finds them. You know, well, in the case of Eric Rudolph, that is what happened. If you recall his case, some rookie cop found him scavenging behind a building somewhere. But probably what's going to happen is, and if they're smart, they're holed up someplace, they're not moving around, they've got money that they're not spending, they've got supplies probably that they're eking out, and you know, if they're smart, they're going to stay put. They're going to stay in one spot, and just kind of let the furor die over. And if they can do that somewhere to where nobody sees them, nobody notices that there's somebody in that house that they're not used to seeing in that house, they may be able to wait it out for a while before they finally pop their heads up. And they will pop their heads up. People just, for the most part, are not, especially this type of person, and they're going to start having interpersonal problems. They're going to start having them pretty quick. First off, you know, there's this love thing that's been going on, and then there's the excitement of the escape, right? And that's going to bring them together. All of a sudden, you know, she's going to do something, or he's going to get ticked off and smack her, or, you know, bite at her, and she's going to start having doubts, and, you know, don't you love me? And, you know, I got you out of prison and all this. It's going to go downhill. It's going to go downhill for her real fast. So, you know, is she still alive? Who knows? Who knows? But one or both of them is going to get caught. You know, either both of them get caught, or he's going to get caught and she's going to be recovered. But the lessons, when that happens, is going to be really interesting to watch. And what will come out of the story is going to contain a lot of lessons. How do you prepare for things? Right? How do you survive? What you know, for people who in the future may think, something about my decisions in life may have people looking for me later on, or if the whole country falls apart, or whatever, if we go into an authoritarian state that's even worse than we are in now, people could be looking for me. Well, there's going to be lessons in this for people who have eyes to see and ears to hear, right? So anyway, I wanted to throw that out there. It's going to be an interesting case. Don't ascribe too much to anything that's been reported so far. If they say they don't know anything, if they don't have any leads, that doesn't mean anything either. They've already had 2 of their leads blown by the feds, right? That happens all the time. All the time. You'd be surprised how good local investigators are. You know, we had a saying, and no offense to any, you know, federal guys who may be watching this, but we had a saying that the only place that a Fed ever caught a crook was when a real cop called him on the phone and said, "I got your guy in my jail, come get him." Now that may be a little unfair, but that's interagency joking and rivalry, but I wouldn't say that that's too far off. So they've already had a couple of their leads blown by the feds. So they're now in an internal fight in law enforcement. Is that the local guys are developing information, and they're saying, and here's the interesting part, the feds will develop it, they won't share anything with the locals. They'll share nothing. I'll tell you a story about a federal, well, maybe I won't. They will share nothing unless they want to feed something to local law enforcement to get them to do something, like do some of their grunt work, running around work, roadblocks, whatever, canvassing neighborhoods. And then the locals never know whether the feds are giving them the real information or manipulative information. The whole story, they never give you a whole story. Part of the story, a lie, whatever. And the good local investigators know this, and they'll be telling their captains and their majors, and they'll say, "Hey, here's what we got. We can't share this with the feds. They'll blow it." This idea of people that are afraid of a unified law enforcement coming at anything, there's no such thing as unified law enforcement. There is, and the local level. In many cases, but not once you get into the federal agency. There's not, even between them, they don't cooperate because they all want the brownie points. So anyway, that's it's going to be an interesting situation. Watch it and try to glean the lessons, and if I think about it and we hear anything more later of any interest, I'll point out what I think some of the lessons are. Feel free to share your opinions on this. Realize that there's really nothing that has happened so far, or nothing that has been publicly revealed that really means much of anything. Doesn't mean you can't have an opinion on it, so feel free to have them. Throw them out there for everybody's amusement, consideration, whatever. But it's going to be interesting to watch. So I'll let you go. I'm off to do something kind of interesting, and I might tell you about it tomorrow. You all have a good night. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. We'll see how well Vicky prepared, and how well those two little lovebirds are going to live tomorrow. You all have a good night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.